What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I want to give you guys a quick market update as Bitcoin is starting to show some potential signs of strength. Now, if you guys have been following the channel for the past couple of weeks, you will know that I have been leaning a little bit more on the bearish side and looking for shorts at every little pump that we get to the upside. And it has actually worked out really well for me in the past week or so. However, we are starting to see Bitcoin show some signs of strength. So in this video, I want to show you guys the three things I am looking at on the chart that have me feeling a little bit better about Bitcoin, at least in the short term. So we're going to be taking a look at the 16 and the 12-hour time frames, specifically the money flow on those time frames, as well as the daily, guys. We have the daily setting up for a potentially very bullish signal to print. And I also want to go ahead and take a look at that 200-week moving average. And as you guys know, this is something we've been looking at to kind of direct our sentiment. If we decisively lose that 200-week moving average, that's where I would actually flip my short-term bearish sentiment into a longer-term bearish sentiment. And if we're able to close that weekly candle above the 200-week, that would actually make me flip a little bit more bullish in the short term. And all three of these time frames are starting to show some potential signs of strength. Now, none of this stuff is confirmed, but I want to bring it to your attention early so you guys can be prepared. If these things wind up confirming, you can predict this move before it actually happens. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the charts. Take a look at the money flow on the 12 and the 16 hour. I want to talk about that bullish signal on the daily, potentially ready to print, and then we'll go ahead and check in on that 200-week moving average. Let's get into it. So guys, here we are on the Bitcoin chart. And this is the daily time frame, and you can see here that we are basically just hanging out right below our value area low of our macro range that we've basically been trading in for about 80 days. Now, obviously, we have deviated from this level a few times. We actually caught along with the premium Discord from this low all the way up to this high, which actually was our almost exact target before going short from this level to come back down to the value area low, where we were looking for another scalp long and then another short from this lower high all the way down. And I wasn't planning on mentioning this in this video, guys, but as you know, we got this big red candle to the downside off of that Binance news that we just recently got, and something that is actually really bullish that, again, I wasn't planning on mentioning, but since we're talking about it, you can see the next day, right after that big red candle, we actually got some more bearish news on Bitcoin, pretty extreme bearish news involving Coinbase and the SEC, and we actually wound up getting a strong bounce off of that bad news. And when you have Bitcoin bouncing off of bad news, you can only take one thing away from that, and that is that the bulls might be fighting pretty hard. So with that being said, that is something you want to keep in mind, guys, just from an overall, first glance perspective. The fact that we bounced off that bad news would generally be a pretty bullish sign, in my opinion, especially because we started to lose this 200-week moving average, which you can't see on this chart, but we'll take a look at it in a second. But it was around this area. We wound up losing that 200-week moving average, and as you guys know, I'll just come up to the weekly right now, go ahead and turn on that 200-week moving average, and you guys know we were talking about, as we were starting to lose that 200-week moving average off of the Binance news, I was saying I am not really freaking out just yet, because we may see something happen similar to what happened back here, where we get a big push down and then the bulls come up and eat it all back up and create this somewhat of a bullish hammer candle, which would be a bullish reversal signal. Now you can see right here, we actually wound up losing that 200-week moving average, but we actually wound up having the bulls push price all the way back up, and we now have the body of the candle back above that 200-week moving average. And if we are able to close this candle in about 3 days and 9 hours above that 200-week moving average, this would be potentially an extremely bullish signal for Bitcoin and could potentially give us a bigger move up. And the next closest price target, in my opinion, would basically to come back here and retest some of these lows from back here, from this range that we kind of traded in from back here in February. And that first wick down here does start at about 32.8. 33K would be another level to watch, as that is the psychological level. So could this wind up pumping us to 33K? I think it is in the cards. However, we are not out of the woods just yet, because we have plenty of time. We have 3 days and 9 hours for price to push all the way back down. But even if that happens, I will be watching the charts very closely on Sunday to see if that 200-week moving average will get closed above above with that weekly candle. Now, that is the 200-week moving average and kind of the update there. We are currently back above it, which is a very good sign, especially because we had such bearish news here, guys. If there was a time for Bitcoin to absolutely nuke to the floor, this Binance and Coinbase news, two gigantic exchanges being attacked by the SEC, which should be able to push price down pretty hard. However, we are seeing serious signs of strength here. Now, guys, I do want to take you back over to the daily and talk about what I am looking at on this chart to potentially signal a big move to the upside, and that is the daily bullish divergence potentially looking to print here. You can see we do have lower lows on our price action with higher lows on our momentum waves, and this actually goes all the way back to these candles from back here in May, and you can see we have consistent lower lows on our price action, and we are potentially going to put another lower low in here with our momentum continuing to come up. So if we are able to print that green dot on the daily with a lower low coming in on our daily candles, this will print a bullish divergence and could be an extremely strong sign of strength. These daily bull divs are not to be messed with. You can see this is also going to be the third drive of bullish divergence. You can see we already had one come in right here, which did trigger a pretty decent move of about 10% all the way back up to about 28.5 before we wound up coming back down. So if we see this wind up printing and confirming, this would be another really strong sign that we may be able to actually get accepted back inside of this range and start to get a move all the way back up to the highs, which does come in at about $28,580. Now, as some of you guys know, one of the things that have been making me lean a little bit bearish in the short term, helping me catch short positions from here and here, was the money flow on the daily time frame. And if we go ahead and zoom in here a little bit on Market Cipher B, you can see our money flow is still technically coming to the downside, but our VWAP is cruising up here. So I would expect a green dot to come in here in the next couple of days, if not tonight, maybe tomorrow. But really what I will be looking at is to maintain these higher lows on our momentum waves to give us that bullish divergence with lower lows on our candlesticks. But if we start seeing this money flow roll back to the upside, that would be a very good sign. And that brings us to our third thing that I am watching very closely on the chart, and that is the 16 and the 12-hour money flow. Now, as you guys see, this VWAP may be a little overextended here. We got a little bit of a VWAP flip, but it does look like we may roll back over here in the short term. However, what I'm looking at on both of these time frames, guys, you can see even the 16-hour never got the green dot. We kind of just got a little bit of a bounce on the zero line before. We could potentially just cross over and print another red dot. But really what I'm looking for here, guys, is money flow. As you guys know, the money flow indicates the longer-term trend, and if we see this money flow continue up on the 16-hour and the 12-hour, that would be a pretty good sign letting us know that this could potentially leak into the daily and start to shape up this daily money flow and curve it back to the upside, which again, on top of holding that 200-week moving average and printing that bullish divergence, could be a sign that we are ready to get accepted back into this range and again, potentially continue back up to that $28,500 level, which is the value area high of our range. Now, again, we do have some roadblocks here. It's not all bulls and butterflies here. Obviously, we do still have to get back above this value area low and get accepted back into this range before getting that move to the upside. And again, we still have 3 days and 9 hours to potentially, lose this 200-week moving average and close a weekly candle. So this is the main thing I will be looking at on Sunday to see if we close this candle above the 200-week. And if we do, I will start to shift my sentiment in the short term and start to look for the opportunities to get a move all the way back up to the highs and potentially beyond. Because if that happens, guys, and we start to see this weekly VWAP curve back to the upside and go for that zero line, that next weekly green dot could be likely to give us a move back above that 31K level and potentially hit those targets we just talked about between about $32,800 and $33,000. So it's looking a little bullish, but guys, we still have some work to do. We got to wait for that weekly candle close. Keep an eye on that 200 week and watch that green dot on the daily to see if you get that lower low on your candle and print that bullish divergence, because again, that could make it likely that we are going to get accepted back into that range and get a big move to the upside. Until then, I am approaching the longs with high caution and I am still holding my shorts. So with all that being said, guys, that's all the time I got for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Frankie Candles out.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like, yeah.